The world number one just grabbed the mic and told her own crowd they were cheering for the wrong person. And somehow, that wasn't even the most shocking thing that happened in Madrid. Aryna Sabalenka had just closed out a dominant 6-1, 6-4 win, clean, commanding. Exactly what you'd expect from a player with 25 wins and just one loss in 2026. A three-time champion already this season. The applause was hers to take. Instead, she leaned into that microphone and said, "When you guys were cheering more for her, I was a bit upset. Next time, please go for me." Read that again. The world number one begging her own crowd, on her own court, after a win. That moment didn't happen in a vacuum. To understand why Sabalenka said that, you have to go back a few days. Because something had already shifted in Madrid before a single ball was struck. And it started not on a tennis court, but in a ballroom. At the Laureus Sports Awards 2026, Sabalenka was named Sportswoman of the Year, a massive honor. But in the same breath, she quietly admitted she wanted to step back from the spotlight. Less noise, more tennis. And while she was saying that, 21-year-old Eala walked into that same room wearing a breathtaking Filipiniana gown, hand-designed by her own uncle. And she didn't shrink for a single second. No apology, no deflection. Just pure, unapologetic cultural pride on one of the biggest stages in sport. Two athletes, two completely opposite energies, same city. And Madrid was about to feel every bit of that contrast. 2 days later, Eala stepped into the Aryna Sanchez Stadium and dismantled Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova 6-3. 6-3. Filipino fans were roaring from the stands. Representatives from the Philippine embassy were watching live. The atmosphere was electric in a way that felt almost impossible to script. And then, mid-interview, Eala switched into flawless Spanish and told the crowd exactly what they needed to hear. "I love Madrid." The place erupted. That clip went viral within hours. She hadn't just won a match. She'd announced herself to an entire world that was only just starting to pay attention. And that's exactly when the tournament made a decision that nobody could quite explain. Her next match, against Elise Mertens, was moved to a smaller outer court. No packed stadium, no roaring crowd, just a fraction of the atmosphere that had turned her into a story overnight. All that momentum, all that electricity, quietly squeezed into a corner of the complex. And the result followed the energy. She lost 2-6, 1-6. But here's what you need to know about that match. Before it was over, Eala walked to the umpire's chair mid-match and said clearly, "First of all, please let me speak. That wasn't drama. That was a player who had just felt the floor shift beneath her, refusing to go down without being heard, refusing to let the moment be erased without leaving a mark." Now picture this. While Eala's fans were packed wall to wall inside Court 5, unable to breathe, unable to recreate what they'd built just 48 hours earlier, Sabalenka was playing simultaneously on the massive Manolo Santana Stadium. Full capacity, every seat taken. And she still felt the crowd's energy wasn't hers. That's not a coincidence. That's a story telling itself. Eala came into Madrid ranked 44th in the world. She'd recently hit a career high of 29, the highest any Filipino woman has ever climbed in WTA history. But her fans weren't there for a number. They were there for something rankings can't measure. The feeling of watching history unfold in real time, right in front of you, knowing you were part of it. Her uncle, the man who designed that iconic Filipiniana gown, said he's proud to simply be known as Alex Eala's Tito. Think about what that means. That's not just family pride. That's a cultural movement finding its shape. And when the tournament moved her to an outer court, they didn't kill that energy. They just displaced it. It flooded the hallways, seeped through the atmosphere, and rolled all the way into the main arena, where Sabalenka eventually called it out, on the microphone, in front of everyone. But here's the layer most people aren't talking about. This wasn't Sabalenka's first run-in with forces she couldn't control. Earlier this season, she publicly challenged a tournament director over withdrawal penalties, calling the comments ridiculous and questioning whether she'd bother coming back. Now the roles have quietly reversed. The same player who once threatened to walk away from a tournament is now being unsettled by a crowd she can't own. That symmetry isn't coincidence. It's a mirror. And what it reflects is a growing, undeniable tension between demanding the spotlight and actually earning it. And while all of this was playing out in Madrid, there was an extraordinary exhibition happening just down the road at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Nadal, Sinner, and Zverev turning tennis into something that felt like a global celebration, pulling in millions of eyes who don't usually watch the sport. Sabalenka sat it out, said she wanted to stay focused on competition. Completely understandable. But symbolically, while the sport was expanding its walls and inviting the entire world in, she stepped away from the biggest room in the building. The contrast wrote itself without any help. Greg Ruseski, former world number 4 and one of the sharpest analytical minds in the game, watched Eala's loss and didn't reach for sympathy. He pointed to one word: resilience. In tennis, that word isn't comfort, it's a prophecy. It's the exact quality that separates the players who burn bright once from the ones who build something that outlasts every setback. Because what happened in Madrid wasn't really about scheduling. It was a misread of reality. The Philippine embassy showed up. Fans traveled across continents. The energy inside that stadium on match day 1 wasn't manufactured by a tournament. It was carried in by people who believed before anyone told them to. And the WTA is watching, because this fan base isn't a trend. It's a foundation being poured in real time. From here, Eala heads into the Catalonia Open as the 6th seed, then the Italian Open, then Roland Garros. And every single tournament from this point forward faces the same question they can no longer avoid. What do you do with a player whose following is already bigger than her draw position? Sabalenka won in Madrid, but the story followed Eala home. That inversion tells you everything you need to know. Real crowd power, the kind that crosses oceans and fills rooms before the doors even open, isn't something a draw committee hands out. It's something people build together, without asking permission, without waiting for a ranking to validate them. The Filipino fan base didn't wait to be told when to believe. They showed up early, they showed up loud, and they showed up as one. So if Madrid was just the preview, what happens when Eala finally walks onto a court big enough to actually hold everything that's behind her? The sport might not be ready for that answer yet, but it's coming. Drop your prediction below and make sure you're here when that chapter arrives.